They were hard to find. I didn't get them all at one time. I had to go all over Lyon to find these. This is one of my favorites with the bright, vivid colors. The next one up here shows the geometric and the cubist influence of Cézanne. The next one down here, again, it's all on the rivers, about the rivers around Lyon, the Yonne, the Seine, and the Rhône. There's one woman in Lyon who's an expert on this, and she's Madame Mermion, who wrote this little book. I soon will be seeing her to learn more about this. This School of Xenia period was 1920 to 1924. Very short-lived, and to my understanding, this is the only time this work has been shown in the United States, here at Charter College. And we'll just quickly look at some of these, but this is one of the landmarks in the old part of Lyon. This is the River Seine here. This has more muted colors. Then we go back to the more vivid and the cubistic look of Derain and the Fauve painters that these artists were influenced by. We come on down here where we come into a few of the blues. It's a little going toward the estuary of the rivers. But the colors are beautiful in all of these. There's a little brackish quality also in these paintings that you see. This becomes a little more brown and dark like their oil paintings they do, but I still find it very interesting. The last one is called the Red Cross, La Croix Rouge, and this is semi-abstract. You see where they go into a little more of the abstract. And then we come across here, the next, that completes this collection, and this is the man responsible for me starting it, Robert Wilcox. This portrait is by Constantine Chatov, who's a well-known portrait artist. And you note there's no frame on this picture. Robert Wilcox did not like frames, and neither did Mr. Chatov, so I respected that out of them. They felt that the picture was the important thing, and sometimes the frame took away from it. That's just a matter of opinion, but I find it interesting. And this is the watermelon scene that my sister, Carlton Childress, did, that I think is an outstanding piece of artwork. And note again, she has sort of the influence of the cubist in this painting. And then we'll wander over to the next, and this will just about complete. This is my nephew and my mother's grandchild, and my sister's child, Wade T. Childress III. And he's influenced by Oskar Kokoschka as well as Vlaminck and some of the artists that I like and find in the School of Xenia period. And we move on. This is a painting from the state of Jean Kalish, and she was influenced by Braque and some of the same artists. She's deceased, and I'm handling this estate for her husband, Jules. They lived in San Francisco, and most of these scenes are San Francisco scenes.
What we used to, Nick, you know, that's what we used to call Coos's Landing. It's called Village Creek today.
You look beautiful.
Thank you very much.
We need to ask a favor. Can we get you to sign our card? We need your autograph. And I brought you some stuff. Right here. I might need any places to sign. Yeah, no, They're beautiful. So they look like some paintings. They do frame them.
A photographer from
You want to Sunday?
It's
a weekend.
Go, it's okay.
With the Prince National is buried, right? Green. We've been here 8 years. I feel like the road's kind of right. We're road sort of like St. Simon's, and also sort of like Macon. And there's a great group of folks that just sort of keep it.
My mother, yes, disappeared, moved off.
Gary. Good, okay. Well, this has been a marvelous show, and we really thank Shorter so much for having us all up here. We're coming back next year. And Virginia, and Hamilton, and Gary, and we're going to have a wonderful time, aren't we? Good.
Yep. We're not doing anything else, we'll be back.
We surely will. And we'll be back anyhow.
All right.
And thank you for doing the wonderful job on
Tell that monkey I said hi. I can see why. She has a wonderful
That six times a week, go see Mildred all the time.
We hop over there on Saturday night. Come over to drive that big black cat over to John's. Marty, my brother Marty used to drive that big black Cadillac. Marty is coming back to Rome. After Christmas, she's coming back. She's going, oh, I thought, well, she's going to take the kids house. Case for a new house. She's getting her master's.
Yeah, so we're glad to have them with us, and we want you students as well as appreciate the ladies from the Coterie being with us. You take your time in asking any questions that you might have, Ms. Huie.
You'll be glad to have asked me anything.
All right, that's great. Appreciate it. Well, I'll go ahead and let Ms. Wilcox start us off, and she's got some things to say to
Well,
us.
it's wonderful to be here with you all, and I like the small, intimate group to talk to people, and I hope you will ask us a lot of questions about this show. The way it started, actually, the nucleus of starting it was about 25 years ago when I was in Lyon, France with my late husband. His picture's right here. And he was fluent in French and encouraged me to collect a lot of French artwork. And so after Mother had done one show here at Shore and Dr. McSwain had asked us to do another one, I thought in my head, how can we put the whole thing and have it make sense together? And because I had built this collection, which I'll tell you a little more about, but I wanted to sort of cohesively tell you how the whole thing ties together. From my way of thinking, when my mother first started painting, she reminded me of Cézanne, who is one of my favorite artists. And you can see that in some of her earliest work, like the Pink Chapel. You can see that early influence. And then these artists on this side at another time were also influenced by Cézanne, particularly the Fauves. And after the Fauves, which was my period that I loved, came the school of Xenia. That 20 artists from Lyon decided not to go to Paris and make their home in Lyon painting around the rivers, the three rivers, the Seine, the Rhone, and the Yonne. And all of these scenes depict that, and they've never before been shown in the United States. And I sort of had them under my bed, and I thought, why not? This is the time to put the whole thing together. So with the help of Steve and Brian, they hung it, we all hung it in a way that, to me, it makes a lot of sense and is a very exciting thing for me to have put together at one time in one place. And we picked Shorter because people at Shorter seem to appreciate this more than any other people I had spoken with. So you have a first, and it's the School of Xenia on this side, and it's my mother's work on this side. And to tell you just a little more about this, in the first place, do you all like this type of work? Do you find it interesting? It does remind you of the Fauves a lot, doesn't it? That period. This is Didier, this is Saint Jean, who was the nephew of this man. And he is still alive, and this is one of his pastel on paper to show you. They usually did a preliminary sketch before they did a large oil painting. And this was painted in 1920, this painting. And the work hangs in the Musée des Beaux-Arts in Lyon, which is near one of the rivers there. It's all documented, and I happen to know the woman that's an expert on this that wrote this book, so that's why I'm so familiar with all of this work. And Steve, there was something you said, you and Brian said you thought they would find real interesting, and I've forgotten what it is.
Well, some of the personal stories about how the pieces came together.
Had to go around.
Yeah.
Didn't just come together. Oh, that was one of the things. You have to have a passion if you're in this art field. I mean, it doesn't just happen that all of a sudden got all these paintings. took about 20 years. I got one piece from one place, and then when I thought I was going to get the whole collection, the taxmen came in France and took the whole thing away. So then I had to find out where they were all over this huge city. So this is how I acquired those. And as I said, you do in our business, or if you want to call it a business, or just your avocation, it just doesn't happen from the time of your concept of putting a show on to getting it up. It's a lot of work to do it. It's a lot of definite little routine things that you will learn to do that make the show come together. Like tonight, it will be beautiful. But before that, the framing, every little thing of that, dealing with the artist, just a million things. Are there any questions you have so far about any of this? That you might like to know about galleries or anything?
She does have galleries.
I have an art gallery called the Left Bank Art Gallery. And had it for 28 years. My mother started it with a group of ladies. And then we took over, my husband and I did, because she didn't have time to paint. So naturally, so we made it more into a French and American gallery. That's the way it came out. It does happen to be my favorite period of art, the fauves. I do have a passion for those, and I've studied and know Andre Derain's family in France. And so that is sort of my personal thing. I handle all kinds of work with it. And in relationship to this, I went on to my sister's painting of the watermelon to show some of our family pictures. That has a little fauve appeal to me in it. And next is her son's work, Wade Childress, who's the rooftops. And next to that is a woman named Jean Kalish, who's more of a cubist, who is deceased now, but we're handling the estate. And then on the far back wall is my sister's painting, her children, her 3 children on that wall. You can see those later up close. And then you come to Mother's work, which she's known for the plantation pictures. And that's more realistic. And then behind the camera is one of her favorite pictures that I will let her start telling about this part of the show. That's called Village Creek Marina. And it's a favorite scene that she has here. And it's just a pleasure to be with you all, and if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you, Mother.
Thank you. May I say a little bit about my wonderful daughter who is so competent in the field of art now, and does a lot of community things on the island of St. Simons where we live. And I would like to start by saying that I was a student here 73 years ago, which is quite a spell, a long time. And I find that Charlotte gave to me a sense of discipline, which was a very strict school then. Rules were, you went to student government pretty regularly if you broke any of the rules, such as being late coming on the streetcar. There was no winding roads coming up here, we just came straight up. And so we were campus bound most of the time, a small student body. I was a Latin and Greek major in Florida State University, but I did my elementary classical work here for that 1 year. Shall we begin over where you stopped, Mildred? You'll go over that. You'll have to pardon me for not standing up. I am particularly love and always have loved St. Simon's Island and the marshes of Glen. And I came from a family of artists on one side and of plantation owners on the other side. So in my yard, I lived on Frederica Road, and I raised cotton that my family used to do, and I have a particular fondness for music and all of the humanities. I can't remember. Well, lots of people ask me how long have I been painting, but I can't remember when I did not have crayons or watercolors or pencil or paper in my hand. So I've probably been painting for 90 years.
I think this would be a good place to start. You don't have to move to probably the pink
See
chapel.
if I-
Good.
Okay. I'm not the one.
That's all right.
This is my most favorite ruin that is not there anymore. I have a commitment most of my life to preserve on visually in canvas and watercolor, oil, and drawing the landmarks that I began to see many years ago would be coming down. This was on a plantation called West Point Plantation, which is no longer there, been replaced by a house that is supposed to look like the one it looked. I used sand, and I used, when this ruin was torn down, I retrieved a box full of tabby. Tabby is a mixture of water and oyster shells and lime and sand. Oldvault found the Indians were using that to chink their teepees when he founded St. Simon's Island in 1736. So this painting has some of the tabby that was in this building after it was torn down. If you come to the island now and you go down to where the pink chapel is, the building that's there is not the real thing.
Let me kind of tell them something else about this.
Yeah.
This is especially wonderful for me because this is about 35 or 40 years old, this painting. And I retrieved it. Somebody wanted to exchange it for one of her new ones. I haven't even told her because I didn't want to upset her. But I didn't want them to, I wasn't going to let them do that, but I said, no, I'll just take it back. I'll get it back from you. So I'm happy to have this because it shows an earlier style where it works.
Using painting wet on wet, spraying with retouch varnish in your left hand, and either scrubbing it with your hand. I paint sometimes with my fingers or my whole hand or stubby brushes or whatever will get the job done.
Let's go over this one.
Jenny looks at
This is Cumberland Island. This is a great house there that called Grayfield Inn. And it was about 25 years ago that I called Mrs. Ferguson, who was a Carnegie and owned this building. The family still owns it.
May I say something? That's where John Kennedy Jr. is from.
Yeah, they know it.
Y'all know that?
That's all right.
They know what?
John
I
Kennedy.
didn't know. I didn't know.
Yeah, that's right. I have many members of this museum, so I called Miss Lucy and asked her if I could come over and could I bring my car on her ferry and spend 2 weeks and paint. And she said, of course, we'll be there at a certain time. Which I did, and the cold February day, I remember. And she said, as I came in the house, she said, you have to have the room upstairs because we have a distinguished man who's taken the quarters I was going to give to you, and that was Joseph Alsop, who was with his brother, was a feature writer, you know, syndicated columnist all over the United States. Well, he and I were there, just the two of us, for 2 weeks. He was a real bore. An alcoholic being.
Mother, that would be terrible.
That's all right.
He was very non-communicative. And he said right off, you know, that he didn't care to be talked to very much. He was on the European diet of drinking water and boiled fish and things like that. And But I have to tell you that about the second afternoon that we were there, the attractive group of people from St. Simon's came in kind of feeling no pain.
It was Macon.
Were they from Macon? Well, anyhow,
Makes a
and they said,
difference.
you know, and to me now, you know, who is this man over here? I said, I'd like you to meet Mr. Joseph also. And one of the ladies who had was probably feeling better than the rest of them, said, oh, I'm so glad to know you, Mr. Aesop. I've read all of your papers. That was
a kiss of death.
that was a kiss of death. Next morning under my door was a note from him. Said, will you please sit with me in the little round table for the meals as long as these people are here. And of course I said, yes, I would. And that was also terrible because, you know, you're in close quarters and it's a cold February day and you're only one floor in the house and you see people and there was just no togetherness with these people there. Made fun every time I saw me speak to him. He died and got out of the way. This was also done with spraying and painting into it. That's where the Kennedy boy was married recently.
That's your Mondays.
That's my Mondays. I use sand in here. This is the entrance to Monet's kitchen, which is color-wise is yellow and blue inside that goes into the kitchen. And then have you been to Jiminy?
I missed it last year because it was closed.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, it's the just most beautiful spot I've ever seen. He's always been my favorite. And there again, I use sand and the texture.
this is one of Mother's favorites. This she did after a trip, but when I took her to Monet's garden, she painted there. She came back and did this.
That was painted on Dunbar Creek, which is a creek that runs off of Frederica Road. That's also the backwater, back of the stables on St. Simon, where I have a photograph here where if you read some of your history, the black people jumped into the water on the last slave ship that came from Ebo, and we call it Ebo Landing, back of the stables.
But you know, you art students, how many are painting in the art? Are you all painters in here, in this class? Most of them? Yeah. Okay. Anyhow, I was just going to say that you become inspired to paint something like this sometimes after you have made a trip. It doesn't have to be to Europe, it can be anywhere. Whatever inspires you, because I've always known after Mother, she painted this painting immediately after we came back. We started over there, actually. She started painting in the garden because it's fresh, and she started on this one immediately after we'd made a field trip. It's something that happens to an artist. I mean, it's important to me, making those and having those images fresh in your mind.
Take canvases, cut out little canvases, roll them up and carry paint in little jars and the necessary things, and so I can do it on the right there on the cross.
These are the sea islands.
I paint most everything that I paint now is around Sea Island. I don't see any need to go anywhere else for beauty,
gardens,
for corners, for every part of it. I teach for past 28 years. I'm an art teacher for all the guests of the cloister. And in the winter, this will be the 29th year, I believe, for talking to the guests of the cloister beginning on every Saturday afternoon, which I'll start on the 15th of November.
And when she can't teach, she calls me if she has to go out of town. And a lot of people have complained that they don't like me as well as they like Mother.
Now, Mildred has always been my stand-in for everything in my life. In 1940, I was in the radio and television business in Albany, Georgia, which was my home. And I don't know, Mildred might have been 13 or 14, but I had other children. And I would say I have a broadcast now that I do every morning, Mildred. You go down and do it at the little house. And she would, so she's been my other self. And a wonderful.
It's been a pleasure. She's made me rise to the occasion. A lot of things I couldn't do, she's told people I could. Like making 3 of those dolls in 2 days.
Yeah, we made over 200. This is my favorite thing here. That's the Spanish bell steps. Right over in this back part is the bell, Spanish bell that Mr. Howard Coffin brought from Jamaica. Mr. Coffin was a man who started the Sea Island Company in 1912. And when I'm speaking this year, it's right in this room in the Spanish Lounge. And then I act as a hostess during high tea at 4 o'clock. And I'm thrilled that I can still, after a fashion, do these 2 things. I'm very, very fortunate that I can continue to do it. This is another aspect of a corner of the gardens at Sea Island. The man who laid out so beautifully done the Sea Island courtyards, Bummy Bumgarner we call him. He was a legend in our area in regards to the color concept that they still maintain. The flowers are synonymous with Sea Island, the beauty of color combinations.
And this is sort of a copy she did of her own work. Like, you know, Monet used to do the same thing over and over. And I didn't tell her I had an order for about 25 of these, and I had to spring it on her lightly. I said, well, let's just do the same thing, you know, sort of over and over. This is one of them.
Move the boats.
Move the boats. Anyhow, I got caught one time in my little aggressiveness, I guess you'd call it. I had a commission for 125 Christ Church in the Cloister, small ones, 5 by 7. And I was sure she would come through and do it for me, but as we got close, it was for a convention. Sea Island was having these, and I said yes, and Mother said, well, she wasn't sure. You did. So it came, the convention was February, and it got to be Christmas, and I said, well, I guess you'll start on that right after Christmas. Well, to make a long story short, she finally said, you know, I'm not going to do those. She said, I never told you I would. So I ended up doing them. And I had to put them in the ovens drying. And I had my husband with a hairdryer. And I delivered them wet. Anyhow, this is high tide.
Yeah. That's still another concept of this whole thing. High tide at Sea Island it's not a hurricane, is a wonderful thing. Mildred lives right on the Black Bank.